Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. I am genuinely so excited to have you here today because we are going to completely dismantle one of the absolute biggest myths of the digital age, the idea that viral success is just some random stroke of luck. If you've ever felt totally frustrated by the unpredictable attention economy, or maybe wondered if going viral is just catching lightning in a bottle, you're in the exact right place. Today, we're exploring the Virality Architecture Framework. It's a comprehensive methodology that basically proves influence is absolutely not an accident. It's a highly structured, repeatable process.
It's a pretty painful and provocative question, isn't it? Why do genuinely brilliant ideas just vanish without a trace, while surprisingly mediocre ones manage to completely conquer the world? If you're a creator, an entrepreneur, or an educator, you've probably felt the sting of this firsthand. You pour your absolute heart and soul into a masterpiece, only to get crickets, right? Meanwhile, some simple, seemingly trivial concept just captures global attention overnight. To really understand why this happens, we have to look way past the surface level of social media algorithms.
Okay, let's dive into this. The secret really lies in this fascinating concept called virality architecture. It's defined as the structural principles that govern how concepts diffuse through individuals and societies. The core premise here is incredibly empowering when you think about it. Influence is not magic. It's an architectural process. Just like a building needs a really solid foundation and a framework so it doesn't collapse, an idea needs specific structural components if it's going to survive and spread. So here's our architectural blueprint for today. We're going to cover the myth of viral luck, why great ideas fail, the biology of influence, storytelling and tribal networks, and finally, the 4 stages of virality. Section 1, the myth of viral luck. It's super common to assume that the internet created virality, but history tells us a wildly different story. The internet really just accelerated mechanisms that have been around since the dawn of human civilization. Long before Wi-Fi, ideas were already spreading like viruses. The evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins actually coined the term meme to describe exactly how cultural information spreads. And in this ecosystem, ideas are remarkably similar to living organisms. They compete fiercely for literally the rarest commodity on Earth, human attention. They adapt to their environments, they mutate as people share them, and most importantly, their ultimate survival completely depends on reproducing in the minds of others. It's survival of the fittest. But instead of sharp teeth, your idea just needs a sharp hook. If it can't adapt, well, it goes extinct. Section 2, why great ideas fail. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the painful historical reality it highlights. Intrinsic excellence just doesn't guarantee success. Think about Gregor Mendel's groundbreaking work in genetics. It was completely ignored for decades. Or Nikola Tesla struggling for recognition while pushing tech way ahead of his time. There is a massive fundamental difference between an idea's value, its intrinsic worth, its truth or beauty, and its transmissibility, which is its ability to actually spread like wildfire from one mind to another. A diamond is incredibly valuable, sure, but if it can't fly, it stays hidden. An idea can possess world-changing value, but with zero transmissibility, nobody's ever going to know it exists. The marketplace of ideas is absolutely not a meritocracy. It's an ecosystem that rewards adaptability. So, what actually kills an idea's momentum dead in its tracks? Friction. Every single layer of complexity you add introduces friction, and friction completely kills transmission. It's the curse of knowledge, that thing where experts totally forget how to speak to beginners and just bury their work in impenetrable jargon. Or it happens through premature innovation, introducing an idea before society is technologically or culturally ready to handle it. And it absolutely happens when a concept lacks emotional resonance. This is exactly why a simple, highly emotional idea will almost always defeat a technically perfect but highly complicated one. Section 3, the biology of influence. Have you ever found yourself wondering why obvious falsehoods sometimes spread so much faster than nuanced, carefully checked facts? Well, the answer isn't a glitch in our technology, it's actually baked into our biology. Like the saying goes, facts inform, emotion moves. The human brain was designed first and foremost to keep us alive, and emotion is nature's built-in mechanism for determining what deserves our attention. Right at the center of this is the amygdala, our brain's emotional relevance detector. It's constantly scanning and asking, hey, does this matter to my survival? Experiences and ideas that are emotionally charged, joy, fear, awe, anger, they get immediately prioritized and permanently remembered. If an idea is just purely factual and emotionally flat, the brain honestly just doesn't bother keeping it. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman maps this out beautifully with his 2 systems of thought.
System 1 is fast, it's intuitive, automatic, and highly emotional. System 2 is slow, analytical, and takes a lot of deliberate effort to spin up. And here's the harsh reality check. If your content doesn't hit System 1 first, System 2 is never even going to open the door. You're going to hit a brick wall of resistance before rational analysis even gets a chance to start. Emotion is literally the key that unlocks the door to reason.
This psychological wiring brings us to a really fascinating concept called identity gravity. This is our natural human tendency to gravitate toward ideas that reinforce our own sense of self. Think about it. People don't just share content because it's mildly useful. They don't share a silly personality quiz because it's scientifically groundbreaking. They share it because it screams to the world, hey, this is who I am. We share ideas because they act like a mirror, reflecting who we believe we are, or maybe who we desperately want to be. When your idea becomes an extension of someone's personal identity, its transmissibility just completely skyrockets.
Section 4. Storytelling and Tribal Networks.
Long before we had servers and smartphones, we had campfires. We had collective narratives. We are fundamentally tribal creatures, and we survive through connection. In the digital space today, there is a massive difference between an audience and a community. Audiences, they just consume, observe, and depend on the creator. But communities participate, they contribute, and ultimately they sustain themselves. Building popularity without a participating community is like lighting a firework. It's spectacular, it's super bright, but it's over in seconds. Communities, on the other hand, are like constellations, stable, recognizable, and enduring. Ideas only survive in the long term because a community adopts them and fiercely protects them.
Within these tribes, symbols are absolutely everything. They function as these incredibly powerful emotional shortcuts. A symbol takes all that complex meaning and compresses it down into an instant flash of recognition. A logo, a specific color palette, an inside joke, or a shared ritual, these drastically enhance our ability to remember the core message. Plus, they deeply satisfy our ancient biological need to belong. They instantly signal to everyone else, this is who we are. Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 5, the 4 stages of virality. All right, so here is the climax of our explainer, the practical, step-by-step life cycle of a viral movement. Because virality isn't an explosion, it's a process. Let's walk through these 4 developmental stages. Stage 1 is the seed phase. This is where you operate in obscurity to establish crystal clear clarity and solid foundations. Stage 2 is validation, where you actively gather vital feedback from your early adopters, your true believers. Stage 3 is expansion. Growth accelerates here, and your main challenge is scaling up without losing your core identity. And finally, stage 4 is cultural adoption, where the idea literally transcends you as the creator and just becomes tradition. The biggest mistake you can possibly make? Demanding harvest outcomes when you're still in the planting season. So, to put that into a timeline, here is your 24-month blueprint. The key here is do not rush it. Spend those first 3 months building solid foundations before anyone even sees your work. Sacrifice being elegant for being clearly understood. Then, take months 4 to 6 to actively validate, test your assumptions, and learn as much as you can from those early communities. Dedicate months 7 to 12 for expansion, building out robust systems without diluting your core message. And then finally, months 12 to 24 shift focus entirely toward reputation, building up that institutional memory and cementing long-term permanence. It's a highly strategic, prioritized roadmap for actual, enduring influence. So, the crucial point is, the ultimate goal of virality isn't just a fleeting view count. It's the meaning multiplier. Significance drastically increases transmissibility. Why? Because people don't enthusiastically share trivial stuff. They share what actually transforms them. Purpose acts as this incredible multiplier that takes raw, static information and transforms it into a lasting legacy. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Look, attention fluctuates, algorithms change every other week, popularity inevitably fades, but meaning survives. By understanding this architecture of influence, the biology, the psychology, and the community structures we just talked about, you have the profound power to create something that completely outlasts the present moment. So my question to you is, what legacy are you intending to build? Thanks so much for exploring this with me today. See you next time.